Welcome to a video where I show you how I made my custom ERTL Railway Series Percy. Ever since I started doing ERTL customs, I've wanted to tackle the main characters in their Railway Series look. I started out by doing one of the easiest customs being Toby, and later did a Thomas as well. However, without Percy, it definitely felt like something was missing. Now I had a few options how I could make my Railway Series Percy, and originally I wanted him to look like the Clive Spong illustrations. However, I feel my final model is more representative of John T. Kenny's artwork. So with all that in mind, I got to work on sourcing a Percy to use for this custom. Now I tend to buy whole lots of ERTLs on eBay, and it never fails that most of the time Percy is included, and somehow I've managed to acquire a lot of him. I had one that wasn't that bad in terms of condition, but the paint and stickers were definitely not in the best of shape. Still, the model had all of its parts, and this would work just fine for what I wanted to do. I started by removing the screws and disassembling the model, which also included popping the face off the smoke box. Before I removed the stickers though, I had to decide what I was doing for the cab windows. I could either make new ones on decals, or I could just drill them out instead, which would give a better look. Since Percy wasn't the first custom I've done this with, I pretty much knew what I needed to do. I found the appropriate sized drill bits for the front and back windows, then used the old stickers as a guide while I drilled them out. With the cab windows done, I gave Percy a good sanding to smooth out the uneven surface on the model caused by the chip paint, but a better option would have been to just use paint stripper and remove the old paint entirely. Unfortunately, not removing the old paint caused issues after I sprayed the model with primer. The old paint apparently reacted with the primer in several areas, which led to me having to sand these areas down and then prime the model again. Still, the old paint reacted in the same areas it had previously. After dealing with this 3 times in a row, I went excessive on the final sanding to remove as much of the old paint as I could. I gave the model one final coat of primer and thankfully didn't have any more issues after this. The model was now ready for paint. For that I used Tamiya X28 Part Green paint, as I felt it was a good match for Percy's color. Now because this comes in a bottle, I had to hand paint it on as I don't own an airbrush. I'll be honest and say that I don't like brush painting my customs because it doesn't give as clean of a finish as spraying the paint on. However, if the paint is properly thinned down, then the risk of leaving brush marks is reduced to some extent. Now I'm not sure if it was because I thinly brushed the paint on, but I found that I needed to apply 3 coats to get the nice deep green I was going for. The wheels were also painted with this same green paint, along with the steps and cylinders on the footplate. I left all this overnight to dry, then added the black to the smoke box, bunker, cab roof, and also the springs on the sides. The footplate was also given a coat of black as well. Last thing to do was the lining on the boiler, and also around the cab windows that I drilled out earlier. All this was done by hand, and not to brag or anything, but I did all this without masking off the model. I almost forgot to do the stripes on the cylinders, so I took care of that as well. With the painting done, the parts were now ready for a clear coat. I tend to just use whatever clear coat I can get at my local hardware store, however in this case I knew I wanted to use a gloss clear coat rather than a matte. When I applied the clear coat, the body and wheels went without any issues, but the footplate, well, the green paint on the steps and cylinders cracked for some reason. Damn it! Although I was disappointed about this and all my hard work had been completely ruined, it wasn't the end of the world. I sourced another Percy from my parts box which had a good footplate and pulled that off to put on my Railway Series one. I repeated the same painting process for the new footplate, and when I applied the clear coat this time I didn't have any issues. With the clear coat applied, I left everything to cure for 48 hours as I wanted to make sure it was safe to handle the model the next time I did so. Here's something I like about clear coating models that I've brush painted. I've noticed that when I do this, it helps to hide brush marks and gives the models a smooth finish. I'm not sure if this is a reaction with the paint that causes it to level out or what, but it makes the models look beautiful afterwards. After the wait was over, I went ahead and started assembling the model, but I wasn't happy with the face. As the model I started with was in played with condition, the face did have some imperfections, and although I could have cleaned it up and repainted it, I decided to go back to my parts box and find a face that was in better condition. With Percy assembled, I painted his dome and whistle gold, and then painted his buffers silver. If anyone is wondering why I didn't do this before when I was painting the model, it's because I found that these metallic colors tend to dull after they've been clear coated. The only thing Percy needed now was the number 6 on his cab. I could have made a decal of the number 6 that ERTL put on the model originally, but I wanted something that was more authentic to the illustrations. Thanks to a couple friends of mine, I was able to source a number 6 and then have a graphic made that I could then scale down and print out. The decal was then applied the same way I apply other water slides to my models. And with all that, Percy was done and I could finally add him to my growing Railway Series custom collection. Despite some of the issues I faced when making this custom, I still really enjoyed this project, and at some point I'd really like to tackle making some Railway Series Henry customs since I've got a lot of green paint left over from Percy. Anyways, I want to thank you all for watching, and if you'd like to see more of these videos, then be sure to comment down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything.